Hello everyone, my name is Sonic and welcome back to another video. I hope you guys are all doing well. And today, you guys asked a question: how well does the Lenovo Yoga 730 perform in gaming? So I got GTA 5 loaded up right here, and from the initial impressions, very good. We're at low settings, but with high textures and shaders, because that basically only takes up VRAM, and you better utilize that. We're sitting around the 60 frames per second. It sometimes can go up to 70, but it can drop as low as 50. But that's still very consistent performance. Drop some of the other settings as well, and it's gonna get even better, but no more than 80 frames per second. Do know that GTA doesn't like to push out 100 of frames per second. The game is very much limited in that department. However, it doesn't go lower than 30, so if you want to crank up the settings even more and lock the frame rate to 30 like a console, you can do that and it will still play very well. I'm playing with the controller right now, and it is actually a lot of fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and focus the camera on the screen, try and enlarge the frame counter, and hopefully you'll be able to see how good it plays. And for the people that want to know the settings, we're playing in DirectX 11 mode. We are at full native 1080p resolution, 60 Hz. FXAA is off. You can turn it on because that doesn't really use any performance. MSAA off because it's the most hard on your computer. VSync off, but you can turn it on if you want to lock it to 60 or 30 frames a second. Population density, variety, and distance scaling all the way to the maximum, although you probably won't be able to notice that in online mode. It only works in single player. Texture quality very high, shader quality very high, so that's the highest setting. Shadows normal, reflection normal, MSAA reflection off, water quality normal, particles quality normal, grass normal, soft, sharp, shadows sharp. You can put that to NVIDIA PCSS, but that will drop the frame rate to low 40s. So I'm going to keep those on sharp. I can probably get away with softest maybe, but we're going to keep that on sharp. And then post effects, turn this to normal, because this is also a hog on your processor. And anisotropic filtering times 16, because that doesn't reduce the performance at all. Ambient occlusion set to high, and tessellation to very high. And advanced graphics turned off, because that is a hog on performance as well. Okay, to test some things, let's grab my Tompa. I just really like the car. It's a weapon. It's the weaponized Tompa, so it's really good. Let's see, we're at 50 frames per second. I mean, this is still really good. So even if it does thermal throttle, which is currently not happening, it's doing really well. I have not noticed any downclocks, at least not in any major way. I mean, the performance stays up there. I mean, yeah, GTA runs very hot, so keep that in mind. If you're playing like some smaller games, the GPU doesn't get nearly as hot at 100% utilization, but GTA 5 at 100% utilization gets really hot. Just bear that in mind. But it's still smooth performance, it plays really well, and you can lock the frame rate to 30 if you want. And that way get some little more performance out of it. Or limit your graphics card with something like throttle stop and limit the GPU power consumption. MSI Afterburner, sorry. Throttle stops for CPU. But like something like MSI Afterburner or anything else that can modify the voltages of a graphics card, just lower them a little bit and lock it to 30 frames per second. And that will reduce heat significantly as well. I might do that actually. At least for titles like GTA. But it plays really, really well. So let's go blow some up. And I'm playing with controller here, bear that in mind. Playing with controller on PC. It's just a convenience thing. If I'm gonna sit in front of the laptop right now, that would be... you won't be able to see as well what I'm doing. Oh, come on. Oh, I pissed off the cops. But honestly, you can still have a metric ton of fun in this game. Sorry, duck ton. And performance is not hindering me at all. Honestly, 40 frames per second on the laptop feels a lot smoother than 40 frames per second on the PC. I mean, it's still... I know that it doesn't feel like 60 at a certain point anymore, but with the textures on high, or very high, and the shaders as well, the game looks very pretty still. I mean, sure, you're gonna sacrifice shadows and special effects and that sort of stuff, but the textures at least still look sharp. The sun is still very good. Reflections is not a thing anymore, but come on, it still looks awesome, doesn't it? And you might think, like, why not just run the GTA benchmark? It's because that benchmark is so unrealistic. That's, like, if you want real world performance, go and do some freaking real world performance. Play the game, have fun. That's my way of benchmarking. If it can handle my tons of fun, it's a good PC. If it can't handle my tons of fun, try again. Okay, let's launch some missiles. I love this car, man. There's like so many weapons on it, a variety of weapons. You got your front miniguns, you got your missiles, front firing and rear firing rear mortars, and the dual infinite ammo minigun. I mean, this is great. Oh, and the proximity landmines, which is so... it's so evil. Yeah, a simple conclusion. This game can very much run games of modern age. It can very definitely do that. That at a decent frame rate. I mean, I am fine with GTA playing at 30 frames a second. Well, at least I used to be. So I would usually turn down the quality on the PC to 30 frames per second, and then get like a ton of extra graphics features on top of it. So I would max out my advanced settings as well, and have ×4 MSAA, but run at a 30 frames a second. That's because GTA basically loves running at 30 frames a second, even on PC. And when you crank up the settings more and more and more, it tends to just stay there. It doesn't tend to go below it. If it does go below it, you've probably done a setting that this GPU probably just can't handle. But try and push it as much as you can at 30 frames a second. I bet that the most settings that you'll change is going to keep it at 30. Which is amazing. But yeah, let's go and kill ourselves. Boom. And let's go and check those temperatures. So GPU is at 78 degrees and the CPU is at a toasty 96 degrees. It's getting real hot in here. But one way you could probably fix that is by running a program called throttle stop. And that is what I have right here, throttle stop. And it's set to reduce the voltage that is used. You can still push it, but the voltage is dropped, producing less heat. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to go into... Let's go and take a look. Yeah, I didn't enable it. Okay, well, let's go to adaptive voltage for the CPU core. And we're going to drop that by, let's go with 75. Then you also have to do the same thing for the CPU cache. So put it on the same setting. Because these things are related, but it usually doesn't tell it. And the Intel iGPU. I mean, it's not needed for this, but just to make it go even lower in power, we're going to do that as well. We're going to tune that down also to 75.2. Now let's go and save this. And that should somewhat reduce the voltage that is used. And therefore produce less heat. It could also limit the boost clock, or it can significantly help out. I really wish I didn't die here because I'm far away from civilization right now. And for the people that think this is like maybe a stupid way to record gameplay, is that if I were to use something like Shadowplay or or OBS for that matter to record this gameplay, yeah, no, that would be unrealistic performance, and the frame rates would drop even more trying to encode the video. So instead of that, we're just going to do it through the camera. You might not, or might like it. Anyhow, let's go and jack this guy's right. But as you can still see, it's very playable. And actually, I should probably change the settings of this video. This is recorded at 30 frames a second, not at 60 frames per second, this video, which is gonna make it look a little stuttery for you. I should have probably thought about that. But for me, 60 frames a second, really good. If I were to bump the camera now to 60 frames per second, I'd have to redo the whole video. But yeah, very playable, very playable. And this is an online, by the way, so this is where most of you people will be spending your time. In story mode, performance is better, of course, but most of you people are probably going to spend time in the online mode, so that's why we're testing it in online, because in online, you get the proper frame rates with a busy server. And this is over Wi-Fi, by the way. This is not through Ethernet. This is just normal Wi-Fi. By the way, speaking about the Wi-Fi, I'm very happy with it. It easily reached the top speed that we also get here over fiber, over the 5G network. It's absolutely amazing. The speed is incredible. Internet connectivity in this laptop, definitely not a problem. Honestly, I'm not even noticing the frame drops. Like, a drop from 60 to 50, I would definitely notice on my PC, but for some reason, in this game, on the laptop, I don't notice it at all. I don't notice it dropping from 60 to 50. Now let's go and grab a supercar. And the most important thing is that it's playable. I mean, the graphics is not the most poor. I mean, with a laptop at this price point, you shouldn't look at how good it can look, because you know it's gonna look shit compared to the higher graphics cards, higher end graphics cards. But you have to consider this. For this price tag, can you game decently on modern titles? And the answer is a definite yes. And something that is really handled well on this laptop is input lag, honestly. I'm with the controller and we're dropping a few frames here and there, but the responsiveness of the controller is still very good. So the input lag management is really good. I don't know if for VSync this monitor runs standard on FastSync, which is NVIDIA's input lag reducer, but it's very responsive. And we're going at max speed here, and we're hitting 44, 50 frames a second. But for me, looks really smooth. Not gonna lie. I mean, if you start churning all that sort of crap, then yeah, maybe you'll see. Then you start to notice that you're dropping frames, but just going fast and not thinking about it is actually very smooth. So I think that the only thing that's still left to do to gain more performance at this point is to lower the resolution. And actually, you might think that lowering resolution always helps a lot. No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Here, let's go to 720p. First of all, your iGPU goes like, yo, what the fuck you doing? And second of all, it doesn't bump up the frames per second at all. Like, barely. Okay, it bumps it up by 10 in this case. So we're hitting 66 now instead of 50. But it still drops down. I mean, you gain 10 FPS by dropping the quality that much. No, thank you. But the fun thing is now that the game's running at 60 frames per second all the time, somewhat. It still drops to 55. It feels like 80 frames per second now through input lag. How do you mean it looks smoother? It just looks smoother than normal. From what I'm used to from my PC, this looks way smoother. Even when we're dropping below the 60 frames mark, it looks way smoother than I'm used to on the PC. I don't know if that's a monitor thing or an optimization thing with the 10 series GPU and the 8th generation Intel core versus my Haswell and Maxwell GPU and CPU. But it looks really smooth. It's very playable, and I can honestly play games on this for days. Now let's see how that voltage is doing. Now we dropped the voltage. How's the temperature? As you can see, the temperatures are doing really well. We're at the 70 degrees mark, 80 degrees for the CPU, 70 degrees on the GPU. I am very happy with this result, and I can definitely play in these type of settings. But I would recommend putting it back to 1080p, because who wants to play it at the non-native resolution anyway, right? Another thing that you can do, like I said, is drop the VSync to half, which is going to limit it to 30 frames a second, but you can now bump up the settings even more. So let's go to shadows and put that to very high. Reflections, let's turn that to high. And let's see what that does. We're at 30 frames. 30 frames. And this is what I meant. This is the trend that I was talking to or referring to. We're not dropping below 30. This is what is so cool with GTA, is that it has a threshold, it looks like, with it when it comes to its performance. So let's bump up the reflection quality to ultra with ×8 MSAA. And again, we're at 30 frames and we're not dropping below 30. So, cool. Okay, what else can we push when we lock it to 30 frames a second? Let's go to post effects. Turn that all the way to ultra. That is a very intensive thing on this GPU in particular. But we're at 30 frames a second. And again, we're not dropping below it. So if you're one of those people that can play at 30 frames a second, definitely go and turn up those settings, because you can push out a lot more at 30 frames than at anything else. So let's see, what else can we crank up? Let's go to, I think water quality needs a reset. No. Okay, let's bump the water quality to very high. And the particles, that does need a restart, so we're not going to do that. Grass also needs a restart. And let's put the shoutouts to NVIDIA PCSS. Let's see how we're doing now. Now the game looks really crisp, and we're still locked at 30 frames per second. And it's still not dropping below it. So like I said, definitely go and mess around with those settings, because you can get some awesome results at 30 frames a second. But anyhow, that has been the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys learned something. And yeah, my battery is about to die, so I've got to go. So thank you guys for watching. Check out the Instagram, Twitter page, and everything else. You know what to do. And yeah, hopefully I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.